Okay guys, this is video 2 for 2.9, and it's sort of like, let's put everything we've learned together and try to find the zeros for this function. Okay, so we have 2x cubed minus 5x squared plus 8x minus 10. No grouping is going to work, so I need to use p over q. So p is equal to 20, so that's 1, 2, 4, 5, 10, 20. And q is 2, so that's 1 and 2. So if I list all the possible p over q's, it's plus or minus 1, plus or minus 1/2, plus or minus 2, plus or minus 2/2 would be 1, so that doesn't need to go down, plus or minus 4, plus or minus 4/2 is 2, so that doesn't need to go down, plus or minus 5, but I do need plus or minus 5/2, plus or minus 5/2, plus or minus 10, plus or minus 10/2 is 5, so we already have that, plus or minus 20, which is, and then plus or minus 20/2, which is 10. So there's my possibles. Okay, we could try a bunch. We could try to use Descartes' rule of signs, but I'm here to tell you ahead of time that none of these work until you get to 5/2. So I don't want you trying 8 numbers till you get to 5/2, and reducing it down wouldn't help us that much, so I'm going to just tell you that 5/2 works. Now, we haven't done many that have fractions here, but well, I'm here to tell you that don't be afraid of them. They work just the same way, and they're not that much harder, so don't balk at that. So there's my synthetic division. Okay, and so bringing the 2 down. See, 2 times 5/2 is 5. And so then negative 5 plus 5 is 0. So then that would be 0, and that would be 8. And 8 times 5/2 is like, simplify before you multiply. So that'd be like 4 times 5. So that would be 20. So you get 0. And I'm the one who told you it was 5/2. So pretend we tried all those other ones, and finally we found 5/2. So that gives us a reduced polynomial of 2x squared plus 0x plus 8, or 2x squared plus 8. Okay, and so 2x squared plus 8, we can factor out a 2, so we can go 2x squared plus 4. And then we had x minus 5/2, right? So setting that equal to 0, the 2 will go away because it just doesn't have a variable on the outside. It's just like dividing everything by 2 and this by 2. So you still get x squared plus 4 times x minus 5/2 equals 0. Now, this one would just be x equals 5/2, positive 5/2. This one, I'm gonna go over here. I get x squared equals negative 4 when I set it equal to 0. So there's x equals, take the square root of both sides, I square root of 4. So x equals, it's plus or minus, by the way, plus or minus 2i. So my answers are plus or minus 2i 5/2. There we go. Okay, good. All right. So we sort of used the rational zero. We used this as rational zero theorem, but I kind of told you the answer. Let's do a different one. X cubed minus 2x plus 16x plus 48. Okay. So can't take anything out to help, so we're going to have to do P over Q, and I have 48. So, but it's a 1 here, so I can just do all the factors of 48, plus or minus 1, plus or minus 2, plus or minus 3, right? Plus or minus 4, plus or minus 6, plus or minus 8, plus or minus 12, plus or minus 16, yikes, plus or minus 24, and plus or minus 48. There we go. Yikes. So, yuck. Let's see. Let's try some of the other things, see if we can reduce. Let's use the rule of signs, the Descartes rule of signs. So this goes from positive to negative, so that would be 1. That would be 1, sorry. And then from negative to positive, that would be 2, and then positive to positive. So it has, for positive possibles, it has 2. And then f of negative x, if I'm trying the negative ones, would be negative x cubed. Still stay minus 2x squared. Change to negative 16x plus 48. So no change, no change. So 1. So it tells me that there is 1 negative one and 2 positive ones. So, if I find the 1 negative one, then I would know not to use any of the other negatives. So I'm going with the 1 negative one. So let's try negative first. Negative 1. So 1, negative 2, 16, 48. That would be 1, negative 3, 3, 19, negative 19. So negative 1 didn't work. Let's try negative 2. I'm going to erase so I don't run out of room. Okay, so negative 2 would be 1, negative 2, 16, 48. 1, negative 2, it'd be negative 4. That would be positive 8. That would be 24. Ooh, yay, this is negative 48. So we found 1, negative 2. So using the rational zero theorem, the P over Q, and Descartes' rule of signs, we smartly picked negative numbers, and we found one at negative 2. So I know that x plus 2 is a linear factor. And then my depressed polynomial would be x squared minus 4x plus 24. And let's see, does that factor? No. So, you want to try completing the square though? I do. Let's complete the square with this. So watch, if you don't know how to do it, you would say x squared minus 4x plus something that would make this a perfect square plus the 24 that I had, and then I have to take off whatever I added to make that a perfect square. So how do we know what this number is? Well, you divide this number by 2. So 4 divided by 2 is 2, and then you square 2, and so 2 squared is 4. So see, that is x minus 2 squared. That's what that, let me get a color, that's what this is. And so because I added 4, I have to take away 4. So then this would be plus 24 minus 4, so plus 20. All right, and now I set that equal to 0. So you get, I'm moving up here, you get x minus 2 quantity squared plus 20 equals 0. So x minus 2 squared equals negative 20, and here's where my complex, because I'm getting a negative here, I get x minus 2 squared, take the square root of both sides, is equal to plus or minus the square root of negative 20. So x minus 2, when I take the square root of that, I get x minus 2 equals plus or minus I square root of 20. Now make sure you put the 2 over here. So x equals, it would be plus 2, right? So 2 plus or minus I square root of 20. But now 20 is not square root of 20 is not simplified. So x equals 2 plus or minus I. And now I'm going to say that would be 2 square root of 5. And how do we say that right? Well, we say, I'm running out of room, 2 plus or minus 2I square root of 5. So you put the I right before the square root of 5. So that's the right number for that. So that's 2, and this one's over here was the third one. So my answer is x equals -2 for this term, for this factor, and then 2 plus or minus 2I square root of 5. Phew! Now that's putting everything together that we've learned, okay? Okay, that was video 2. I'm going to stop, and you should go on to video 3 for 2-9. Keep up the good work.